introduce Steve McCarthy now for the state AMWU State Secretary. Thank you.
This is a completely and utterly domestic shipping, and this is an attack on domestic shipping. This is a Patrick's on the water. Because I can tell you now, Alcoa is the beachhead. Alcoa is going to be the start of this fight, because they're going to do this all around Australia, because they won't be happy until they displace every union member in this country so they can take our rights away, they can reduce costs and increase profits. And if you think that's bullshit, you better bloody tell them.
We say fight back!
They say cut back!
We say fight back!
They say cut back!
And we're seeing that happening in numerous places. We're seeing them start to cut back on conditions. We're seeing them put pressure on contracts and workers getting told that, look, you better look at taking a cut back in your wages if you want to keep yourself in a job. Now, what we've got to say is we can't allow this to keep going on. We have got to make a stand. This stand's got to start at this point now, and we've got to call on all of the workers involved in this and all of the unions to stay together. We work on the position, as I said, I don't want to preempt what the motion's going to say because it will actually tie in what we're talking about here. But we've got to stick together on this, we've got to work together on this, and we've got to send a strong message back that we are not going to have our conditions ripped off whilst these people have been making hand over fist billions of dollars in profit.
We say fight back!
They say cut back!
We say fight back!
They say cut back! I'd like to hand it over to Doug Heath now for the CFMEU.
You can see what's coming your way because you've seen the likes of BHP and FMG and every other multinational over the last 12 months use the reduction in commodity prices as justification for attacking workers' conditions. During the resources boom, these companies made billions. They made billions of profit, and they've used a short-term reduction in commodity prices to now want to reduce workers' pay. We're dealing with the shutdown era at the moment for these multinationals where workers are getting 50% less this year than what they were last year. Yet these fat cats here, they're not suffering. They're making as much profit as they've ever made. BHP, Rio Tinto, they're still getting the iron ore out of Australia in record volumes. They're not missing out on the profits, but they want to attack your jobs, they want to attack your pay and conditions. Stick fat and you'll win. Dare to struggle, dare to win.
We say fight back!
They say cut back!
We say fight back!
They say cut back!
Australian workers have been involved in mining and refining of bauxite, smelting and transportation of alumina for over half a century. Australian seafarers and Australian ships have always carried this cargo for Alcoa. Alcoa intended to remove this vessel, MV Portland, from the Australian coastal trade and replace it with a foreign vessel manned by a foreign crew on temporary licences guaranteed by the Turnbull government. This has no coincidence that the same government is attacking Coastal Trading Act as it attempts to repeal it. So what they're trying to do is change the Act to make sure they can do this more freely and readily and put you guys off the coast. Put simply, this is a systematic removal of Australian workers into the domestic industry. On this occasion, it happens to be the maritime, but it would not be acceptable if Alcoa were planning to remove their shore-based workers. It would be acceptable to think that Alcoa would be planning to remove their shore-based workers and replace them with foreign workers. Why is it acceptable to remove their workers from the maritime section of their own business? So in other words, if they're going to knock off the maritime, they're going to come after us as well. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. The MV Portland is introduced with a radically lower crewing scales and have ensured commercial viability on the basis for the last 27 years. We urgently call on Alcoa to meet with the ACTU and Alcoa unions to discuss the issues both in Victoria and WA nationally. We call on Alcoa to maintain the use of the Australian vessel and the Australian crew of the MV Portland in the interim, consistent with their original proposition that they were going to maintain the Alcoa trade for at least the next number of months, while this matter gets a chance to get further discussed with all the unions involved. We will campaign to ensure that long-term viability of the company is assured by the Australian workers and the Australian industry under the Australian laws and regulations and in a productive and efficient manner and in a competitive way. The last bit was a bit of a suck-hole, just to get them around the table. But that's it in a nutshell. What we're saying basically is, we want you to stop your attack on our wages and conditions. We want you to maintain Australian labour, and one of the most important things of this whole thing is we want to maintain Australian domestic shipping. MUA!
MUA!
Do we have a mover? Move to the cover place. Have a seconder anywhere? Favour that.
We say fight back!